Ladies and gentlemen, we made it. Episode 10 of Rip Roc. We are finally at double digits. Didn't think we'd make it this far.
Nope.
But here we are. This is episode 10. We got a lot to talk about. The first half, the MLB season, is officially in the books. The All-Star break, it begins, and the O's are in prime position for a big second half push. We could be seeing some playoff baseball at Camden Yards. Obviously, want to knock on wood, but that atmosphere will be electric if it does happen. Here's the rundown. The O's sweep the Twins, and they are now winners of 5 straight games. We'll take a look at the AL East, share our first half thoughts. Ryan Mountcastle back in the lineup. Well, back on the field for the first time since June 8th. He was dealing with vertigo. Where does he fit in with this ball club going forward, the former first-round pick? Adley Rutschman in the home run derby. We're talking All-Star game festivities. Jackson Holliday reportedly getting the call to Double-A. That's somewhere he saw himself being at the end of the year, Rip. So that's big for him. And another guy you talked to, Kobe Mayo, he's getting the call to Triple-A. So the Orioles' top prospects are just moving up the ranks. Holliday, that rise is just meteoric. You're drinking out of the Rip Roc Yeti right now.
You're darn right I am, because I need this coffee to get through this
now that
episode
you're done drinking,
with you.
Do you want to? That's just rude.
That was foul of me.
Yes,
it's
it was.
usually Rocco doing that. And that, you know what? I just can't stoop to that level. I apologize. But do you want me to take the risk?
Was that a short joke?
It can be.
I don't like that.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, but it might be one now. But you know what? I would gladly take the rundown.
Come on.
You did a great job for the beginning. You took a lot of pressure off me.
Thanks.
But
don't gas me up.
We got Rip's tips, and essentially, well, we're not going to give it all away, but responding when things look tough. And I think that's something, I'll leave that as a cliffhanger, but a lot to talk about that can talk about as far as we see with our favorite sports teams and as well as in your own personal life. And then we're getting in the Rip Roc mailbag.
Yeah, you did that without telling me, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, I thought I tagged you. Clearly I didn't, but I'm like, you know what? We're rolling with it because the people have some questions, Roc.
The people do indeed have some questions.
And we want to answer them, so that will be wrapping up this episode. So stay tuned so you can hear your question be answered. And then we're going to talk about the second half, essentially. Can this Orioles team sustain success? There
it's
it
very
is.
tongue twister.
Sustain success going forward.
Success.
It's tough.
It is very tough.
Can
sustain success.
Can they do really well in the second half? How about that? Can this team continue to play
I like that better.
Really high-quality baseball? And what would they possibly need? We don't like to play the hypothetical, but we might play a tiny bit of the hypothetical game.
We'll tease this, but we might have to talk about it on next week's episode. We only really have like maybe an hour to talk about all this stuff. If the Orioles end up picking, because we're recording this while the first round of the draft is going on, so if they end up picking at 17, we'll touch on our thoughts on who they end up taking. We have no clue yet. So that might happen. That might not happen. If it doesn't happen, we'll definitely talk about it next week. Who that may be, we have no clue. Could be a pitcher, could be a position player. Mike Elias he's just cooking one up though right now. So that's how it's going.
And clearly it's done well. And actually, you were wondering about the Maryland product. This just in, Matt Shaw, 13th overall to the Chicago Cubs.
That's big. That's big.
So we're going to have kind of reactions like that. So if the pod's got to get, we shift gears a hair, it's mainly just going to be because we're going to be talking about right now what's going on with this Orioles team, because trying to give it to you up to the wire as best as possible. But shout out to Matt Shaw, a big moment for him.
Yeah,
and his
that's
family.
big for the former Terp. So hats off to him and everyone getting drafted, because that's huge stuff. All right, let's jump into this, Rip. The Baltimore Orioles are 54-35 overall. They are 2 games back of the Tampa Bay Rays for first place of the AL East. And they just won their 5th straight game. They swept the Twins. They go to the Bronx. They split the series with the Yankees, that little 4-gamer right there. They go right to Minnesota, and they sweep the Twins. Huge for the ball club going forward. They don't need a reset at the second half. There are teams like the Rays that have lost, they've gone 3-7 over the span of their last 10. They were on a 7-game losing streak. They need a reset right now because they were the hottest team in baseball in the first half of the season. Not the case anymore. They've kind of teetered off a bit. The O's, They're a team that doesn't necessarily need this reset, but they absolutely hit the cover off the ball in the series finale against the Minnesota Twins. 6 home runs. Anthony Santander had 2 of them. They almost hit for the home run cycle. Austin Hayes starts it off. He hits a solo home run. Ramon Urias comes out. He hits a 2-run home run. Then I think it was Adley after that with a solo shot. Then Aaron Hicks with a 3-run. I could be out of order here.
It's so hard to keep up
then
with
Santander.
how many home runs. It's so many
And then
home runs.
Santander again.
Yeah. I mean,
so it was a lot of home runs. Like that box score was a mess because of how many home runs the team hit. They end up winning 15-2. That's tied for their largest margin of victory this season. And they tied the score they put up against the Yankees. Like with that, they beat a team by 13. They did that against the Yanks as well. So this team is playing its best baseball right now as the first half of the season comes to a close. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. There's so many great things to be happy about right now. Honestly, to me, if we're going to look back, the most pivotal game of this road trip was Game 3 in New York. That right there was the decisive game for so many different reasons because the Yankees were right on the O's heels. The Yankees take 3 or 4 in that series. Things are feeling a little bit different, and it's getting a little bit tighter between Baltimore and New York. But Dean Kramer in that game, in Game 3, unbelievable effort. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 10 punchies. And the Orioles have another comeback win, Rock. So to me right there, you get that. And then you have that eruption where everybody was on the hit parade for that game. And then you just carry that into Minnesota and you're leaving the Twins feeling like you want to keep playing. Like, I don't want to stop. I don't want anything to keep. I don't want this break to happen because they have that confidence back. And actually, you know the crazy thing, Rock? Do you know where I'm going to go with this? Probably not, because I didn't tell you. The Orioles have a better road record than they do home record. And that's something that to me is so shocking. You know the only other team that has a record like that has a better road record than home record?
Well, can you give me like 2 seconds?
I'm
scrolling. It's the Atlanta Braves.
Boom.
30-14 away, 30-15 at home.
So here's the point, ladies and gentlemen. What the Orioles are doing, to me, that Game 3 changed the entire landscape. They got hot, but what they're doing also is not just like it's fluky. It's elite what they're doing, and they're finding more ways to win. And honestly, the Aaron Hicks revenge tour, it's a real thing. You guys better buckle up and get on it because you got to face the Yankees again, and for sure, he's going to do some damage. That big 3-run home run today. The O's, the vibes, I think I saw a tweet out earlier, maybe it was Nathan Ruiz. The vibes are immaculate. I could be wrong on that, but whoever did it, props to you because it's 1,000% right. The vibes are immaculate with Birdland because they feel that they are right where they are supposed to be.
I think we may have some breaking news right now on the podcast. Joe Doyle, I got to make sure, he's a senior analyst, and he's got the blue check mark. He tweets out that the Baltimore Orioles are selecting outfielder Enrique Bradfield Jr. at 17 overall. Now, I am not seeing that anywhere else yet, but if so, that's one of college baseball's biggest names. He's not Cruz, he's not Scanes, but like that is one of college baseball's biggest names. So,
as soon as we get that fully confirmed,
yes,
because I'm looking at that myself here, and this is kind of the beauty of us just trying to figure out what's going on with this episode because the Orioles are right there. It is their pick. So I think he might be on to something here. And this is kind of the beauty of it, and we can get into this more, but the draft, so many opportunities for these young players, and they deserve every right to go in the first round is an honor, a privilege. Clearly, a lot of teams believe in your talent. But for everyone in the draft, whether you go in the first round, you're the last pick of the draft, you don't get drafted, whatever it is, the journey's just beginning. And it's no guarantee that you're going to have that success at the next level. You hope for that high of an investment, but now the work is just beginning.
If it is him, 3 seasons at Vanderbilt, he hit .311 with 15 home runs, 108 RBIs, 131 walks, 31 doubles. And let's see. He's 6'1", 170. Bats left, throws left, Florida native, went to American Heritage, which is a big school down there in Florida. They produce a lot of athletes in every sport.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the case, the O's got a good one. Do they need outfield right now? Not necessarily. But Mike Elias has done a fantastic job since he has taken over and since he has started drafting players for the rebuild and post-rebuild. So I'm a guy that's trusting Mike Elias right now until he gives you a reason to lose that trust, get rid of that trust. And he hasn't right now. So he's doing a really good job putting this club together. And I mean, if that's the case, if they went outfield, maybe he's got a plan for him in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the other part of it, people were wondering because of all the bats that the organization has developed, and there are some studs in the organization. You're seeing it, and you hope that every single one pans out because that just makes your whole organization better. Confirmed?
Not confirmed yet. So
Not
we can
confirmed yet?
maybe we got, but who knows?
Well, it's about to be on the clock, but I think it leads to a quick discussion, though, Rock, and then we can go back into moving into with stuff with Ryan Mountcastle and where the team's moving forward. But the Orioles, whether they take pitching or not, they're really trying to take who they think is really kind of probably their best on their board. They're very specific on what they look for in players. And to add an extra elite bat is something, if they think that's the best player on their board, they're going to take. And people are wondering, well, what at some point, and that was a mailbag question, you build up enough talent, you're going to have so many assets to do a lot of different things. And I think people need to keep that in mind. You don't want to reach for someone just because you think that that's a pitcher that could go at that point. You want to take someone that the analytics is telling you and your scouting department's telling you that they are the right person.
Confirmed.
Well, there it is.
Confirmed. They just took Enrique Bradfield. Very fast as well.
So there you go. So the point is right there. The Orioles, in my mind, were looking at value, and they thought that pick at 17 is the value for them to have, and they're going to worry about all pitching stuff later. And you can look at teams, and you can go across any landscape, not even baseball, but football, same thing. Like I think that's the biggest one for at least Baltimore fans. Ravens, we talk about always, the Ravens philosophy is always taking best available. There is something about making sure you trust your scouting department, and then everything else will play out. I do believe this is a case where everything's going to play out.
And I'll tell you this, man. If you look at the teams that are at the top of the top in college baseball, the majority of those teams are from the Southeastern Conference, from the SEC. You look at your Floridas, your LSUs, your Vanderbilts. These are the top programs, the blue bloods, you would call, in college baseball. And if you're taking a kid from one of these programs, you're getting someone who's already developed or on his way to being developed as a potential future first rounder or professional baseball player. So they're getting a kid who has been coached well, who has played very well, played at the highest level, who's fast, who can clearly hit, maybe not necessarily for power, but they don't really need that right now. You just saw what they did today.
Well, the thing is, this is years down the road, right? So you hope that he's in Baltimore in the next, if it's on the fast track, year or two, but it could be longer than that. But for what he's able to bring to the table,
we don't know what they're going to do with him because the outfielders and the prospects they have right now, that outfield is already loaded. They could use him as a trade piece going forward. We don't know what is going to happen. That's so far ahead now, unless he has like a Jackson Holiday, just like meteoric rise throughout the minor leagues. We don't know where Bradfield's going to be at the end of this upcoming season, going into next season, what he's going to produce, what the deal is. So, I mean, we're just talking about this now. This is raw, like finding out who they just took. So hopefully it works out going forward for sure.
And I will say college players, though, they are going to try to push a little bit quicker. Like we're seeing the rise of some of these young players like a Jackson Holiday, like a Kobe Mayo, both high school players. When you're looking at college guys, they are going to try to push because they think physically and mentally they're a little bit more advanced. So with that being said, we're going to see what happens. A lot can happen, but who knows? I mean, maybe Bradfield is drafted because the Orioles are thinking about who they can move on from. But honestly, on that big league team, because we're going back to them now, I mean, if I'm that Orioles lineup, I don't want to change anything with what they have going because they are so deep right now. And I don't think that we'll dive into more about for the second half, but this Orioles lineup of what they're doing, and now we're transitioning. They just get Ryan Mountcastle back. And I know for you, there are some questions.
Yeah, there are some questions. With the way Ryan O'Hearn has been hitting the ball and just what he brings to the team. They went out and got him. Mike Elias has been phenomenal with the offseason trades and signings and bringing guys in that are getting a new, fresh start. Ryan O'Hearn has been one of the best hitters on this ball club.
Without
and he's
doubt.
played a big role and he's come through in some big time moments for the ball club when they need him to. So you can't just pick up Ryan O'Hearn with the way he's been playing and take him out of this lineup. And I know Mountie, for him, he was hitting the cover off the ball to start the season. And then he struggled. And then he got, he was dealing with vertigo. So they send him down. He goes in AAA. He struggles for the first bit of AAA. And then he starts, all right, he's getting his groove back. He's finding himself again. And then he has a big RBI, little bloop single today in the series finale against the Twins. Scores a run. That was big time. He's got the smiles back. He was smiling at the guys in the dugout. It was great to see. He hadn't played a game before with the Orioles since June 8th. So it's great to see Mountie back. Him smiling, him finding his own, and slowly getting back into the lineup. But my question is, Rip, where does he fit long term? He's a former first-round pick. He's proven that he can be one of the club's top hitters when he's on. But right now, with the young talent coming up, with guys kind of pushing up through the ranks, where does Ryan Mountcastle fit in the lineup going forward?
It's going to be
not just this year. I'm talking about next year and years ahead.
It's going to be really interesting because, one, I still am a huge Ryan Mountcastle believer because Mountie is just the pure hit tool in itself is extremely impressive. And the only reason I'm saying is when you see it live and you see it up close and personal, a lot of guys will tell you within the organization what he's able to do with the bat. And you saw it. Like when he is on, he can carry an offense by himself. Like his bat in the lineup's felt. The problem with him right now is the consistency level, specifically trying to get on base more if he's going through some tough times. And Ryan O'Hearn, and where for the short term, where Mountie could slide in more is when there's left-handed pitching. Because O'Hearn, as great as he's been this season, and he has really crushed. I mean, he's in 318 versus right-handed pitching this year, Rock. Versus lefties this year, not so well. Hidden under 130. I think right now, I don't know if it's updated, but really, actually, let me just take a step back there because I read the wrong thing for it for a second. They're not playing him versus left-handed pitching, period. So the reason why the average is so low, I was shocked by it for a second. He had 8 play appearances versus lefties going into today. On Sunday, the final day of the All-Star breaks, or the last game of the before the All-Star break. So my point is, that's a spot where Ryan Mountcastle could come in. But then you're wondering, well, where does he fit in other terms? Because there's another guy knocking on the door down in AAA that is probably going to find different ways to play different positions. And he's another outfielder, but he also can play first base. If you don't know who that is right now, it's Heston Kjerstad. Just played in the Futures game. I know we're going to get into those. But to your point, I don't know where the Orioles are going to have Mountie in, but for the short term, he's going to slide in versus lefties. Long term, you have Kjerstad that just hits everybody, which makes me feel that someone's going to be the odd man out, and I just don't know where Ryan Mountcastle is with the team's long-term plan.
And Heston makes it look so easy as well. So too much talent is a good problem to have for the Orioles in their farm system and on the big league club roster right now, because this is a team that they couldn't find talent just a few years ago. They didn't know how to win ball games, and now not only are they second in the AL East, they're what? I'm not good at math. 19 games above?
19 games above.
Yeah,
500.
19 games. Sorry.
Good math. That's better math than I thought. Can I say one more thing, though?
Go ahead.
So I want people to understand this. Ryan O'Hearn, to be honest, was not expected to do what he's done. And I can be, if I'm being blunt, I don't think the Orioles expected it either. because they were looking at depth. They didn't have him, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but they didn't have him on the 40-man either. They acquired him. I think they DFA'd him. He cleared waivers, and he was outrighted to AAA. So you're waiting and hoping, and he bashed his way into the bigs, and you hope that he is a guy that can be a part of it. But long-term, Ryan O'Hearn, to me, still at 29 years old, he probably isn't their long-term solution either. So that's where I don't know what they want to do. And you have a younger player in Ryan Mountcastle where you're still trying to, I guess, figure out what you want. But for the time being, you got to ride the hot hand. Ryan O'Hearn against versus right-handed pitching. He's been that guy. But I'll tell you who's not going anywhere. Heston Kjerstad. I've said this for a while. That dude is coming, and he is coming soon.
Yeah, just looking at O'Hearn's stats with the Royals. Played for Kansas City from 2018 to 2022. And I know the season's not over, still a whole second half to go, but right now, the season were to end today, his numbers, average-wise, he hit 195 in 2019 and 2020. He's hitting 302 with the O's right now. He just never hit above 250, one time, and that was his first season, his rookie season with Kansas City in 2018. His on-base percentage is one of the best it's been. His slugging percentage is one of the best it's been. His OPS is one of the best it's been. And that's like since his first season. Since that first season, he's kind of had a roller coaster. There's been downs, there's been ups, but like not too many ups for him in his career. Like this is a new fresh start, and he's playing some really good baseball with the Orioles right now. So like this is what they need. They need their guys that they've acquired, the Aaron Hicks, getting Ryan O'Hearn. Get like other guys that they acquired in trades, Frazier as well, to come up in big moments. And like, yeah, exactly. The veterans that they brought in that probably are not going to be a part of the long term.
Nope.
And that's okay. But like right now, they're clearly trying to, they're in win mode right now, and these guys are helping. And that's what you need, a solid mix of veterans, guys that have been there before, guys that have the experience, and then the young guys that have no experience that are coming up, and they're still super talented as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they were trying to bridge the gap. Honestly, they're trying to bridge the gap between some of the young prospects and your team's winning so much, and those guys are such a big reason of why you're winning. Like, people talk about Colton Cowser coming up. Well, it's hard to move Colton Cowser up at the time when you bring in Aaron Hicks, and all of a sudden, Aaron Hicks is making impact play after impact play, and then Adam Frazier, even though you don't like the sign initially, he's had big moments. He's there, and so you want to wait on your time for Jordan Westburg, and then finally it's here. The same thing with Ryan O'Hearn. Ryan O'Hearn forced the hand. The Orioles needed a bat, but I guarantee you they weren't sitting here going, well, Ryan O'Hearn's going to be our guy. But what I love about with Ryan O'Hearn, regardless of what happens, it's just such a great story for anybody out there because he had to grind his way back to prove to the Orioles, because you mentioned his numbers in Kansas City. Not ideal, especially Kansas City. One of the worst teams. Or you can make the argument they are the worst team, just as far as I know. I got to check the full standings of what's going on. But regardless, people think they are one of the worst teams in baseball. They didn't have a use for him anymore. So to see someone now, regardless of what happens he's with the Orioles next year, Ryan O'Hearn has played himself into extending his big league career and has shown his value. And it's such an interesting game, but people don't understand that. You brought up a great point with the veterans. This is why it matters. You need guys to help show this young talent what to do and help take pressure off them until they're ready to take over themselves.
No, I agree, man. And it's Birdland. You guys are in a great place right now. It's like, get out the Camden Yards, continue to support this team in the second half, because I mean, they're going to be gunning for obviously first place in the AL East, but if not, that top wild card spot. And the O's could easily be in one of those two spots come season's end. That's the hope. Rally towels flying at Camden Yards, and the O's getting at least one or two playoff games there, if not more.
Yeah, they're hoping. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. But if I had told you guys that the team would be 19 games over 500, would you have taken it at the break? 2 games out, would you have taken that? There'd be a no-brainer. And if you say no to me, you're lying to yourself. Like Rocco, he knows better. He's not lying to himself. He knows better than to do that. Well, you just lie to me sometimes.
I always lie to myself.
Is that a deeper conversation we need to get into today?
Yeah.
Should I clear my schedule the rest of the evening?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into All-Star Game festivities. We saw the Futures game. We talked about that. Jackson Holliday, limited playing time. He was 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Obviously, that's not any,
No.
We're taking that, not even with the grain of salt. Like, that's like, it is what it is. The guy got one at bat. He struck out. It's baseball. It happens. You give Jackson Holliday 3 at bats in that game, I guarantee he goes at least, 1 for 3 or 2 for 3. Yeah. Probably with a double as well.
Yeah, and if
he's baseball's top prospect for a reason.
And if you went over, it doesn't change a damn thing.
Heston Kjerstad, I think he went 1 for 2 with a single. He made a nice catch out in right field. It was like a routine fly ball, but still, I like to call it a nice catch. Gas him up a little bit.
Gas him up.
It's good because he could easily be one of the next prospects called up when his time comes. So that could be the next guy that gets the call. It's either going to be, I would go to say it's either going to be Kjerstad or Grayson that gets called up next.
Yeah, I mean, Grayson to me it's happening after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Because I think the time's coming. You're going to need your arms. Grayson is still one of your best pitching, starting pitchers in your organization, and his ceiling's still there. Nothing has changed with your long-term outlook with him. But Kjerstad's a guy where it's really not just it was a possibility, and I really thought this was going to happen anyway. But to me, it seems there's zero chance that Kjerstad is kept out of the big leagues to end this season. If this team is competing down the stretch, and I know that they're saying, well, and I even made the point about Cowser, Kjerstad as a hitter to me is the best pure hitter in the organization, period.
Yeah, and he's very mature for where he's at in his career right now. Seeing him, it's kind of shades of Gunnar Henderson last season because Gunnar went to the Futures game and then he got called up, I think, a couple months later, if not weeks. I remember talking to him after, or like right before the Futures game about the experience. And he's like, I just can't wait to get up there and help this ball club win games. And hopefully it's come playoff time. Didn't happen last year, of course, but he has a chance to help this club this season. Gunnar does. So does Heston Kjerstad if he gets a call up come playoff time and to make a deep playoff run. So it would be huge to see him get called up. The number 2 overall pick, former number 2 overall pick in the draft. We remember coming out like he's number 2 pick for a reason. And then he had that bout with myocarditis, caused him to miss the entire 2021 season, I believe. So he'd already be in the league by now, in the show by now, if not for myocarditis and dealing with, those heart issues at that point in time. So this is a guy that is MLB ready right now. Heston Kjerstad will be in the show by the end of the season. Unless something crazy happens, mark my words, he'll be up there.
I think that's the Rip Roc guarantee.
That is a guarantee. It's like Barkley. Guarantee. Yeah, it's like that's like I guarantee you he will be up in the show come season's end.
Sign it, deliver it. You heard it here. We've been saying this actually for a while, but we are making the vow right here. We're going to clip this. Kjerstad, Baltimore, we're both agreeing for once.
I think Elias is also being cautious with, he's seeing like obviously the team's winning games with this lineup right now, and he knows it's not the long-term lineup going forward, but he doesn't want like, if Kjerstad gets brought up, however many games he plays, they're being cautious of, okay, like, we don't want him to play so many games so it ruins his rookie season. Like they don't want to do that to these guys, and they also want to make sure if they're bringing them up, some will be eligible for the for playoffs come season's end, and if not, you got to bring them up at a certain time. I remember that happened last season.
Yeah, playoffs, and there's the rookie, how many bats you can have when getting caught up for rookie eligibility. There's all these types of things, but again, I just think. You're to the exact point that you just made. I think it's a great point. When the team's gelling, you don't want to change too much. But Kjerstad's a guy that really could just be that. Is the fox in the hole the right term?
I don't know.
Fire in the hole.
Okay,
let's put it this way.
The wrong guy.
Yeah, terrible. you are not helping me out. X factor. Heston Kjerstad is this X factor for the Orioles that really the rest of Major League Baseball does not know what they're going to end up dealing with.
So you got Austin Hayes is the O's lone All-Star Game starter, and he deserves it.
Absolutely.
He deserves it. Career season, been the best offensive player on the team by far. He's having a phenomenal season, doing it without batting gloves. Respect to that, too.
That's tough to do, man.
That is tough to do. Like, that's like, not many guys do that. or are brave enough to do that, but he's doing it without batting gloves, so he's doing it the old school way. Adley, Austin Hayes, Felix Bautista, Yenier Cano, they're all going to the All-Star game, representing the O's in Seattle. So they'll play in the Midsummer Classic on Tuesday. Before that gets underway, Monday night is a big one. And I'll say this, man. I always used to look forward to the Home Run Derby more than I did the All-Star game.
No doubt.
The All-Star game, different for you, I'm sure, growing up in a baseball family and with your dad playing in so many of these games, getting to watch him. But for me, I didn't look forward to the All-Star game as much as I looked forward to the Home Run Derby. Because as a kid, in your backyard, you were just like, my brother and I, all the time, wiffle ball and bat, just that was the game. It was like 10 pitches, home run derby, or you set up the bases in the yard, you're always trying to hit it over the fence. We're not going for singles. We're not going for doubles. We're not going for triples. We're going for homers every single time. I had the Mark McGwire bat growing up. I had the junk ball growing up. I don't know if any of you out there remember that, but it was like the black bat with the red stripe. And with the junk ball, you could change the, it was like there were holes in the wiffle ball, but you could close the holes if you wanted to throw a fastball, and you could open them up if you wanted to throw like off speed, like a curveball, a slider, change up or something like that. But if you close the ball up, the ball will go further if you hit it. So I used to hit tanks. I was never a power hitter, but in the backyard, I was Mark McGwire. Like I was hitting bombs, man. Yeah. But that's what you always look forward to, the home run derby. When you got together with your friends, it's like, we're going to, home run derby.
All right. So not to cut you off,
flip the hat backwards.
So what is it sounds like I know what one of your home run derby moments so one of them, backwards hat, who do we think of?
It's Griffey.
Right?
It's the kid. Yeah.
Like that one was incredible. And what did he do? I mean, I should know this. But
what did he do?
No, but
you do know this.
I should know that. I do know this. But is he the first one? He's the only person.
He's the only person. Nobody's done it in game.
That's right. No, I knew that.
Hit the warehouse in the air.
No, yeah.
That I know of.
Yeah.
That, unless I'm missing something, and I could be, but I think Griffey Jr. is the only person ever, unless, someone snuck into Camden Yards and hit something without the cameras on. But he's the only person to hit the warehouse fly ball in the air, not off the bounce. Because pretty sure there's been a few people to do it off the bounce, but nobody. And yeah, people have gotten close, but never in the air.
Never in the air. You're right. I had a brain fart. That's 100% right. It's only been Griffey. So there's that one. I mean, the home run derbies, you're right. It's just like those kids' moments. Like that's what it used to be. And for ones that remember it, it was just 10 outs, by the way, back then. And batters had to be so patient. And then that was the incredible thing, is that guys would just go on these heaters of just hitting some over and over and over again. I remember Josh Hamilton the last year in New York.
That one.
And then he didn't end up winning the home run derby, but no one remembered that he didn't really win it. I think Justin Morneau won it. But Josh Hamilton hit one out of Yankee Stadium.
Dude, that was freaking awesome. I remember Miguel Tejada was hitting tanks over the train tracks at Minute Maid when he won it back in 2004. That was awesome. And was he the last Oriole to win it?
That was electric. I think so.
He was.
Yeah.
He was the last Oriole to win it. I'm going to quiz you. Do you know how many Orioles have won it? How many, at the time when they were Orioles, have won it?
Is it 2?
Do you know who the second would be?
Yeah, I do. And unfortunately, if I didn't know that, it was 91 in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
So, because,
You weren't even born yet.
Yeah, I wasn't, but it's ingrained in my mind. Don't you forget it. But those are the things. It's just the all-star festivities, really. It's those moments where you bring it up. I'd say probably a recent one in the last, 5 to 7 years when Stanton was in there mashing balls. Thought that was just a really cool experience just because he's a massive human being hitting the ball like 180 miles an hour.
Pete, I'll tell you this, Pete Alonso makes it fun.
He does make it fun.
And he's back in it.
Yeah.
So he's won it twice, and he's going for his third. Not his three-peat, because Juan Soto screwed that up for him, winning last year. But Pete Alonso could very well win number 3. But not if Adley Rutschman has something to say about it. He's looking to become the third Oriole to win the home run derby, and his pops is pitching to him. You can't beat that, man.
No,
and this is a ballpark. He's a West Coast kid. He's from that what is it? The Pacific Northwest area, you call it?
Yep.
He grew up going to those games at that stadium. Is it still, it's not Petco Park anymore though, right?
It was,
Petco, correct?
No, Safeco.
No. Safeco.
Safeco. It's not Safeco anymore.
Yeah, it's T-Mobile now. It's T-Mobile. Petco is San Diego.
That is correct.
Spanish Armada. Oh my God.
Wow, we are becoming more friends. I never did. We're going to just have a bunch of movie quotes. Like we're both huge movie people, and like
blurt them out.
And just the stupid movie quotes.
I just blurt them out. But checking out the bracket, Adley Rutschman looks to become the dark horse. Not a lot of respect here for him because he's got what, like 13 home runs on the year now? Mm-hmm. I think he hit his 13th today.
You know what?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
And I think
he's got the 1 seed, man.
Well,
I'm saying, sorry, go ahead.
Adley though, odds wise, I mean, he's dead last in odds.
That's what I'm saying. He's got the 1 seed, as in he's facing off against the 1 seed, and that's Luis Robert Jr.
And that dude, 2019, the Frederick Keys, I was in high A with the Keys, faced the Winston-Salem Dash, and that's where Luis Robert Jr. was. And he went deep twice on opening night, and then he went deep 2 more times in the series. We faced him in 8 games, and I'm pretty sure he hit 7 bombs. And so that dude's got juice. But to your point, I also seen Adley in person. When Adley gets going, the dude's got serious pop. He might not have all the home runs, but at plus 1,400 odds, if you're into that type of thing, sprinkling it on for a little Orioles magic.
I might take it, man. Pops is pitching to him. He already confirmed that he's hitting lefty. I think Adley could give Robert a run for his money there, and that's not homer talk. That is me saying, like, I think Adley could actually do it.
Well, how far did he hit the one today? 461 feet or something like that?
It was a monster.
So Adley, I've seen him get in routine, and no one knows their son better than Pops.
Adley's got 12 on the year. I gave him an extra one, maybe previewing for the home run derby. Let's just give him 30,
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? But I'm excited for it. Should be a great event. I think they've progressed the home run derby well, and there's a lot of great names. Like I love seeing Vlad Guerrero Jr., J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez puts on a great show. Rosarina, Mookie Betts, like Adolis Garcia that no one talks about is having a great year. Like it's a really good group of players competing this year.
Yeah, the bracket is Robert and Rutschman. They face off. That's Adley's the 8th seed. He's the lowest seed in the competition. Robert's the 1. Adolis Garcia against Randy Arozarena. That's a 4-5 matchup. Those 2 winners will face off in the next round. Then you have on the other side of the bracket, Mookie Betts taking on Vlad Guerrero Jr., Pete Alonso taking on Julio Rodriguez. So those winners will face off, and then you go on to the finals, the winners of those next 2 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see, man. But it's really cool. Good for these guys. It's always fun seeing, you'll see Felix Bautista, you'll probably see Hayes, Cano, all supporting Adley with the O's threads on. Like I always loved that when it was like when Big Papi was performing, all his teammates, they rallied around and they always had the towels. They were putting them on him, trying to like dry him off when he was sweat. Like that's the cool stuff, and them getting hyped for their guys, and that's really what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
Much needed break. This is good for the guys. And hopefully they get to enjoy it, and maybe they're coming back with an American League win and an Adley Rutschman home run derby win.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, I think how I always look back on it, it's obviously the accolade for the player to be there, especially for how hard you've worked. And so for the Orioles, especially Hayes starting now, is a really great moment. And then obviously we know having Adley and Cano and Bautista, like that's a moment they're not going to forget. But also for their families. Like it really is. And the only reason I'm saying that is because growing up, as much you brought up, my dad made a few All-Star games, 19 to be exact.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I wasn't alive, obviously, for all those. But that last one specifically in Seattle, that's one of the most memorable ones for me, not just because it was my dad's last game or All-Star game. It was because of the family feel. I got to be on the field for the home run derby. I got to be with my family and experience something like, wow, this is so cool. You're around some other great players. And then it's just something that is going to mean so much on such a deeper level to so many of the family members. So that's what makes it great. Unfortunately, the game itself, whoever wins, you just hope everyone gets healthy. Like that's the thing with these All-Star games. It's like, it's a great concept and you want to celebrate it.
Yeah.
But the bigger thing is that the players that got there can really get the spotlight.
Exactly. It's good for them. And you said earlier, which I still don't believe you said you called his home run in the final All-Star game too.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
You predicted it?
I 1,000% called the home run before Chan-Ho Park just grooved one right down the middle.
What'd you say?
I just said he's going to hit a home run. He's going deep here. Dad's going to go deep. That's what I said.
That's sick.
Whammy. And then he did. Do I get any credit? No.
You just patted yourself on the back here though. So, it's kind of credit.
Because it's our podcast. I can say what I want.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Exactly. No, but that's awesome. Good for them. Getting to enjoy it, and everyone who gets to take in the All-Star game. O's fans, if you're going, plan on going, or did go, if you're listening to this later in the week, let us know. Send us pictures. Share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you for sure. Tweet us at Rocco DeSangro and at Ryan Ripken. I will put my name first every single time I bring that up because I'm first in my own mind and you're second.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not according to the name on the podcast.
Yes, that is true.
Whammy! There we go.
We needed to gain a following, so we had to put your name first. No one knows who I am. No one cares about me.
Well, if we're just going by alphabetical,
yeah,
Rip R-I's in front of R-O. If we're gonna take it by the book here,
yeah, but your
first name
is R-Y, and my first name's R-O. So it's not fair.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Whatever. Yeah. Well, I don't like that cookie.
Yeah, it's a great cookie.
All right. So
where are we going next?
While we're on the topic of All-Star games, we're talking about the future. As a guy that played in it, Jackson Holliday, he began the season when he got promoted to High A for Aberdeen. He began the season with Delmarva in A-ball. Then he goes up to Aberdeen. During his press conference in Aberdeen, he said that his goal entering the season was to get to AA. Well, Jackson Holliday, congratulations, because according to Steve Molesky of Masson, you're headed to Bowie. And that's big. And that's something we talked about on last week's episode. Jackson Holliday, if he does finish the season or get to Bowie, what do we say before the All-Star break? There's a chance that he's up in the bigs before the end of next season and he's making his MLB debut. And he is on an upwards trajectory. He's on the right path, and his rise continues to be just meteoric. It's awesome to see. It's a top prospect in baseball for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to pull the clip. We didn't do that last week, but we talked about this earlier on going into spring training. He's excelled at every level, and that's the part now. AA for me was the first test personally. When I talked to other guys too, it's like, okay, well, a lot of guys know what they're doing more. How do you handle that level? I think he's going to handle it just fine. But if he goes and does what he's done this year, 2024 is a realistic possibility for him. And you just love what he's been showing, his makeup. And that's the thing. He could have gone 0 for 5 with 5 Ks if he had that many at-bats in the Futures All-Star game. He's already made the impression on everyone that if they had a choice, if they could do it all over again, or even just think who they want in the future, they made the consensus. They think that Jackson Holliday is that guy that you want on your team.
Oh, he definitely is, without a doubt. I mean, he's been hitting this season over the course of those 3 stops. Delmarva, Aberdeen, well, 2 stops, I'll say, because Bowie's going to be the 3rd. But right now he's hitting .331, 7 home runs, 86 hits, 51 RBIs, 20 stolen bases. The kid can do it all. And he's still a kid.
Oh, yeah.
He just turned, 19 years old? Turning 20 in December, on December 4th. We talked about that, yeah?
Mm-hmm. It's
19 years old and he's doing this.
Yeah, but then with how great Jackson Holliday's been playing, we talked about him a lot. Don't forget about another guy, Kobe Mayo, going up. Brock.
Yeah, Kobe Mayo. You spoke with him on your podcast off script with Rip, correct?
That is right.
Yes.
That is correct.
Morgan Adsit spoke with Mayo. It's funny because we talked about it. I was like, Morgan spoke with him a couple days ago, and it's going to air tonight, Sunday night on our, I guess last night. We're talking in past tense right now. But she was talking to him because she's like, this is going to happen soon. And he gets bumped up. And now, like, a lot of that stuff kind of gets dated because you talk to someone about what if, this and that. And then, like, she didn't know he was going to get called up today. I didn't know he was going to get called up today. He might not have known he was going to get called up today, but that's TV for you. That's what happens. But Kobe Mayo is the O's 7th-ranked prospect, according to MLB Pipeline. And he's a dude that they could just hit for power.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's 21 years old. We're talking about a youth movement. So 21 years old, being in AA or in AAA now. He hit 17 homers down in Bowie. And sorry, I call Bowie Bootown for those that don't know. So yeah, it's Bowie Bay Sox.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I will. But
No,
Bootown. I love my time in Bowie, in Bootown. Anyway, the thing for him of all their hitting prospects, he has a upside that we really don't know what the ceiling can be. That's what Kobe is showing right now. But so the Orioles are seeing a lot of these young bats continuing to move up, and it's a good thing. Kobe, it's going to be interesting because I'm still trying to figure out where I don't know exactly where they're thinking for him long term, but I will tell you this. They love the guy. They absolutely love him. I think that's a guy for them. We talk about untouchable players like Jackson Holliday being one. I think Heston Kjerstad as well. I would put Kobe Mayo right in that list. I don't think he's going anywhere. They are enamored by what the kid can do.
Hitting .307 with a 1.027 OPS. He's got the numbers. He's got the stats. He's got the size, and he's definitely got the power. 17 home runs through 78 games is the big one. That's what you look at. That sticks out on paper. So I remember when he went to Bowie, we went down because when players get called up, since Bowie is so close, obviously Norfolk would be a bit of a haul from here. I don't know how many hours is it from Baltimore. Like
they say it's 3 hours, 3.5, or like just under 4, I should say. Do not believe that.
Yeah, Bowie's like 30, 45 minutes like to get down there. Yeah, like less than an hour without traffic. So we went down there when it was him, Norby, and Colton Cowser got called up at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I remember when that happened because we got to interview all 3 of these guys. And listening to Mayo, he wanted to be up here as soon as possible. So to be up in AAA right now, that goal is so attainable. In the next year, if he keeps hitting the ball the way he is, this is going to be a very young, talented team going forward when it's all said and done.
Well, and that's the thing, too. And it's a whole other discussion we can talk about in the second half. But there's a reason why you got to let players develop and see what you have. And I know Oriole fans wanted to say, we need to push to get guys this past offseason. Not so fast, because you still have to see who is a guy that you think is going to be your long-term answer. And the Orioles had a lot of those guys on that list. I think we're going to start to see that, answered sooner rather than later here. But make no mistake, I mean, these Orioles young prospects, and I think Mayo and Holliday are 2 guys that the Orioles are going to have for the long term.
So they both get promoted according to reports. Let's jump into Rip's tips while we're chilling right here. What do you got for us today?
Since we're chilling here, Rip's tips, it's really just about when things aren't going well, how do you respond? And really, this is something that can be in your personal life. This can be about any team that you like to root for. So personally, I'll start there. It's easy to go and do something when things are going well. How many times is it easy to go about your business, go about your life when it just feels like everything is going your way? You just go through the motions and you're enjoying every moment of it. But when things go wrong, and you got to try to work yourself out of it, and it might seem that there's this stress, there's this anger, there's this frustration. What do? How do you handle it? Because those moments tell you more about yourself than when you're having all the success, because it's when you struggle so much, how do you get out of it? That's what's going to dictate how you're going to get on with, the rest of your life, or how you get by your issues in life. So now moving into sports, case in point here, the Baltimore Orioles, since this is about the Baltimore Orioles. Last week, everyone thinking this team's falling apart. They finally hit a rough stretch, and they had a rough homestand, but keep in mind, you're still playing some solid teams, by the way. But everyone thought this offense was just falling apart. They weren't producing. They hit that rut. Do we need to make moves? Well, here's the thing. The Orioles go to New York, lose 2 in a row, and that was a big moment for them. Biggest moment of adversity, and all they decided was, we're not going to let that define us. How can we get out of it as quick as possible? And how do they do that? They pick themselves up, and then you see what they've done. They win 5 in a row. And the Orioles' struggles tell you a lot more about what they're doing or about their character of this team. That's why I think this ball club is going to go very far this year, it's because stuff like that. And you can look around Major League Baseball right now. Other teams are struggling. The other better teams besides the Atlanta Braves, who are just the juggernaut right now, the Rays struggled. The Rangers were getting beat up by the Nationals. Other really top teams were having a tough go. It's in those moments you're going to find out about your team. The Orioles had that moment, and then past that test with flying colors, that is something that Oriole fans should be proud of, and in your own personal life, continue to work through it, because you will find when you get through it, you'll be proud of yourself too. That's what I got.
The two hottest teams in baseball right now, Rip, as far as winning streaks go, come from the AL East. You have the Red Sox on a 5-game win streak. They're 8-2 over their last 10. And then you have the Orioles on a 5-game win streak, 6-4 over their last 10. There's no other team in the American League that even comes close to that. There's no other team in the American League right now, while I'm looking at the standings, that has won 2 straight right now as we're recording this podcast. Then you go to the National League, it's the Dodgers on a 4-game win streak. The Braves just lost the Rays. They are 8-2 over their last 10. That's what we're talking about. You want to get to the mailbag for the first time?
Let's get a little bit
this
of a
is
mailbag.
something, we're first week we're doing this. You put it out there, didn't tag me. Shout out to you. You put my name in there, but forgot to hit the tag button. I guess I'll forgive you for that. But we want to get to your questions. What do we want to start with? You got them in front of you.
Yeah, let's start with let's start with a simple one where I think this is just for unrealistic. We'll throw this out here. Unrealistic, realistic. You're going to give me an answer here, Rock. I call the shots now. Okay?
Okay.
We got a question. What are the chances the O's could shock everyone and trade for Ohtani?
I think I have a better chance of winning the lottery twice in the same day. And I'm not trying to knock the question, but that's how unrealistic it is right now. The Orioles are a team that doesn't spend money. So in getting Ohtani, they'd have to then pay Ohtani this massive contract. And this is a team that has one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. I just don't see that happening. I think the Ohtani to the Orioles. Now, if it does, and I look like an idiot, I will gladly wear that dunce cap and wear it proudly, because that would be an awesome day in Baltimore sports history, a memorable one, and getting Shohei Ohtani would be life-changing, life-altering, not only for the sports scene, but for the city as a whole. You know how much revenue that would generate, having Shohei Ohtani in your city? You know how many times Camden Yards would be sold out? I don't see it happening, though.
Yeah, no, it's a negative chance.
Yes,
It means it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, too, would be a rental. He's going to cost too much, and he's going to go somewhere else after this next year. He has no aspirations, in my mind, to sign long-term in Baltimore, and you got to deal with Adley and Gunnar, guys that you want to keep in Baltimore. I think that answers that one pretty swiftly. We talked about when we think Heston Kjerstad debuts. Do we want to put a date on that?
I don't know if we necessarily want to put a date on that, but I do think it's coming soon. I really do.
For the sake of this game, I'll put a date on it. I'm saying by September 1st or the last week of August.
I was going to say September. August, September, he'll be up. But I didn't really want to put a date on it. I don't feel confident in putting a date on it, but I do believe that he'll be up by the end of the season for sure.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. This is something. It's based in
who's asking these questions too. By the way,
I need to put in.
Let's shout them out.
So sorry. Last question. By my gut says 7. That was about Heston Kjerstad. BTAR8 asked about the chances of Ohtani, which he also didn't expect, but anything's possible, right? So I appreciate that. Yep. This was something we talked about earlier, and this is from Own the Chaos, Brad Smith, who I'm doing stuff on YouTube with. Why the hell would you ask to review a call in the last out of a game when you're losing 15-2? We're talking about today. Rocco Baldelli challenged the play. I
would say this, and some might take it as a knock. If we're gonna preach play to the final out, as a manager, if I feel like my guy's safe, I'm gonna challenge it. I'm gonna be that guy. It's like calling a timeout to drop a play in basketball when you're down 30, just because you want your guys to get experience. And I know many will say, okay, it's a team sport, but for individuals, the money they make depends on sometimes how many hits they get, how many home runs they hit, how many times they walk. So these incentives could play a factor into that too. And if I'm a manager and I believe my guy's safe, like I'm definitely going to challenge that. Say what you want about Rocco Baldelli, for that great name, by the way. Whatever.
Yeah, the Rocco's got to stick together.
It's one of the few Roccos that I know of. So it's nice, and the CCO spelling. So great stuff. But I would do that. Call me what you want, but for the player, I would do that for sure. And you may think, all right, let's get these guys out of here, down 15-2. Like, this is a joke, and like take it to some type of way. I don't think he was doing it like that by any means.
As a player, if your manager's doing that for your players, trying to get his guy a hit, and 100%. And I'll tell you what, if that hitter was really struggling, I'd have to look up the number specifically. And I've been in those situations where you feel like you're 1 for 20, or just things aren't going well. Maybe 1 for 30, maybe 0 for 30, and one little hit there can just change your mind. Yeah, it stinks. You want to get out of there, but I'll tell you what, that one hitter and everyone, that could be the changing of the guard. So I think we're on the same page there. He wasn't trying to do it to be a jerk.
Yeah.
It wasn't trying to be petty. It's really, if you're in that shoes and those things matter, like I'm telling you, I had a chopper that they called an error on it and I should have been safe. And then the play got overturned and I was waiting for that, and it gave me 2 hits in the game as my first multi-hit game, and it felt like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I had 6 straight games of multi-hit games. Like, that moment changed my perspective. So Rocco's just trying to protect his guys. All right, moving into another.
Not me, Rocco Baldelli.
Yeah.
I am too, though.
Yeah, not you. So this is a conversation we're going to put it all together. This is from One Star O Birds and from Boom Boom Birdland. 2 things, because they're talking about 2 pitchers, Giolito and Lang, for 1 pitcher for the Tigers, 1 pitcher for the White Sox.
Yep.
So I'm just going to put this question in together because they're talking about Giolito, Lang. Do the Orioles, what would need to be done, you think, to get a player like that? And do you think the Orioles would go after a player like that in a AL Central right now that's just a mess?
What was that question, though? It was
So Giolito, would Giolito be available, and what would you give up for him? And then the same question for Alex Lange with Lange, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, for the Detroit Tigers.
What would I give up for them? The O's need a big name, big time starting pitcher. And that's, there's no doubt about it. And we don't know what's going to happen with John Means. We don't know if there's going to be another setback. I would give up right now. Take a look at the prospects to get one of those 2 guys. If the O's are serious about going after a pitcher, going after one of those 2 guys, you might have to package together some prospects. You might have to throw some big league guys in there too. Mm-hmm. Seriously. And that's where you factor in. I'm not saying trade Mountcastle, but to get a starting pitcher of that caliber, you might have to throw in a Mountie. You might have to throw in a big name guy that's not one of your young guys, but is probably not going to be a part of this ball club in the next 5 years.
So that was the other part. So it even takes it another step further, because Steve asked, I'm sorry, Steve, you have a few questions. We're only going to get to the one here. Yeah. But this is about, he was saying, Justin Verlander, Houston Astros, Max Scherzer with the Nationals when they won, big aces. When is the right time to package up some prospects, and which name would you say yes for? Because the other part is, if you're packaging up these prospects and you want that top end guy, you're going to have to give up one of your big guns in the system.
Yeah, I would package, if they're going to do it, probably should package whatever you can. Like, to get a Justin Verlander, he's talking about going after one of those guys.
For 1 year, would you sacrifice a top player? Would you sacrifice an untouchable prospect?
See, for Verlander, I'm not sure, because you're getting a guy that has, still proven he's at the top of baseball. He just won the Cy Young last season, but he's 40 years old.
And he's got a big salary.
He's 40 years old with a big salary. And are the O's going to take, are they going to take that on? Right. Do they want to take that on? I don't know about those 2 names, Verlander or Scherzer. Maybe if we're talking like 5-6 years ago, I might give you a different answer. Right now, probably not.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say with this, to add on, I know we'll move on. I'm sorry for all the questions that we may or may not have gotten to, because there's actually one. We have one question, but we'll answer really quickly because it's important to my heart. the thing that people have to realize, I don't know if a full ace that people want is going to be available. And I think that is the big thing. Like everyone always thought Corbin Burns for the Brewers. The Brewers are in the hunt, and they are. You don't want to trade your top guy. So you got to keep that in mind. These teams, that's why the Centrals are going to be the teams to watch, because the AL and NL overall for those other teams that are struggling, they've been disappointments. There's a lot of them. So that would be the teams I would watch and keep an eye on. But again, right then and there, is there someone that's a full ace? To be determined. You have to make the call on that. Last one really quick then, Roc. Boneless wings, bone in or bone out?
Bone in. Traditional.
And that's from Joe.
Boneless wings are not wings. I'm sorry. Boneless wings are not wings. They are quote unquote saucy nugs.
Okay.
They're just not wings.
We're going to have to.
I cannot eat chicken nuggets with sauce on them and call them chicken wings. I'm sorry.
Okay. So
I stand by that.
You know what we're going to do next time? Because we're going to talk about one of our favorite places to eat wings next time. But that does it for the mailbag here. And by the way, Eddie, let's say a Don and a Greyhound get into a fight. Who wins? We know the answer to that. It's a Greyhound. It's not a Calvert Hall Cardinal. Go Hounds. That's my school. Sorry, little vent. I'm done.
We got one last one. Lisa, what would your picks for the home run derby be?
Well, where was that? I didn't see that on here.
She responded to me, and she tagged me, but she didn't tag you because you know what? She probably was like, Ryan didn't tag Rocco, so I'm not going to tag Ryan.
So
thank you, right. Lisa. And this is, who would the picks for the home run derby be? You know what? I'm just going to go out on a homer pick, and I'm going to pick Adley. I'm just going to pick Adley just to make Birdland happy. I'm going to pick Adley, and she said, Ash's question, if you had one wish, what would it be? That's such a tough one. Ash, you know what? I wish that Ryan would stop being mean to me on this podcast week in and week out. There you go.
So 2 parts for me. I will take one Adley to win. If not, I would love to see, if it's not Adley, I want to see Julio Rodriguez win it in Seattle. That would be the other one if it's not the case. And as far as the wish, honestly, I just wish that I could eat wings right now and prove to Rocco that a good boneless wing is just as good as a bone-in wing. Is that okay? That's not the right answer? Well, it is the right answer. There's a lot of questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. Rocco's filming me. Listen to this. It's coming out soon. And you guys will get what we're talking about here. Oh, I think that does it for the mailbag, but Ash, appreciate the question.
Yes.
Lisa, thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
Last thing we got quick before we got to go. I have to cut some things and get the draft stuff.
Yeah,
ready
your job's still going on.
Yeah, my job is still going on despite recording this podcast. Can the team sustain success going forward? What do they need the most? I think they can. The baseball they're playing right now, but what they're going to need guys to do, starting pitching is not going to be an issue, but it's going to be a point of emphasis. And the Orioles should definitely be buyers at the trade deadline. Maybe get a starting pitcher, a big name that you can potentially get for cheap or on a discount, or maybe a rental for this season, and see if they could take you far. Add it in to a pretty solid staff, but I'm not going to lie to you, this pitching staff doesn't wow me. And it's not a knock on any of the guys. They're pitching well and consistent, but I don't, when these guys go out and pitch, I don't sit there and say like, wow, the Orioles got, they have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, because it's just not the case.
They don't have the household names.
They don't have the household names.
And that's the thing for people to look at. So guys that have pitched really well. Gibson was great today. Tyler Wells should have been an all-star. He's been great this year. Down the stretch though, guys like Tyler Wells, guys like Grayson Rodriguez are there's inning limits talks coming up. So that's another part that's coming up. Is John Means going to be fully healthy? If he is, great. But those are things to consider. Pitching is definitely the need, because you're seeing it. Why are the Twins, even though they're struggling so much offensively, why have they been in the hunt besides today's getting mashed by the team? They've had one of the top pitching staffs in the league. That's what's going to keep you alive in October.
I do think with the bats right now, with the prospects being called up, with these guys moving up the minor league ranks, Mike Elias has a plan. And I do think that they can sustain the success. Maybe not a World Series or a deep playoff run this season. I hope I'm wrong. Because I would love to see it. But I do believe this team will be playing playoff baseball. And right now, I'm going to go as far to say this. I think they have what it takes to win the AL East. I think the Rays over the past couple years have had their shot. They've done what they've done. They've gotten to the big game. They've gotten to the World Series. They've had their window. Right now, these next 5 or so years going forward, it's the Orioles' time to shine.
Well, and I'm with you that this team can go as if they continue to do what they've done, and they will be earned. The Orioles have the hardest strength of schedule down the stretch, and this rest of the month, they have the Marlins, Dodgers, Rays, Phillies, Yanks, Blue Jays in that order to close out. All teams with winning records, all teams that have aspirations to be just where the Orioles are and go into the playoffs. So if the Orioles can continue to prove against those tough teams, the sky's the limit for what this team can do in the second half.
It absolutely is, man. That's a wrap for episode 10 of Rip Roc. We hope you guys appreciated it. Tune in next week. Ryan will be sure to tag me in the mailbag next week when he puts that out.
I might.
So I won't feel as offended as I do right now, because that really hurt my heart. But it is what it is. But continue to tweet us your questions, your thoughts, what you guys think of the podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon. I think I'm leaving some out. Wherever you get your podcasts. Like I said, let us know what you thought, what you think of this. Download it, subscribe, share a rating. We do appreciate your guys' feedback. Thank you so much. That's a wrap on episode 10. We'll see you next Monday.